Welcome to the Black Bibliophile podcast. The Black Bibliophile is a podcast where I, Jazz, read and talk about popular and little-known books, comics, zines, and authors. To quote Haruki Murakami, if you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking. And with that, let's start the show.
Back to the Black Bibliophile podcast. It's me, your host, Jazz, and this week we're going to lean into the Halloween spirit of the year and, of the month, and talk about a spooky book. So this week we're going to be talking about Uzumaki by Junji Ito, which is honestly one of the most creepy things I've ever read in the history of my reading career. So let's just read the summary and we can hop into it. Kuruzu-cho, a small fog-bound town on the coast of Japan, is cursed. According to Shuichi Saito, the withdrawn boyfriend of teenager Kairi Goshima, their town is haunted by a person or being. It's haunted not by a person or being, but a pattern. Uzumaki. The spiral, the hypnotic secret shape of the world. This bizarre masterpiece of horror manga is now available in a single volume. Fall into the whirlpool of terror. So, I got Uzumaki for Christmas. My brother bought it for me for Christmas. It was on my Christmas list. And I was like, I don't think anybody's going to buy me this weird manga. And I saw they started releasing all of Junji Ito works in these tomes or these volumes. So all 3 volumes of Uzumaki are collected in this hardcover black book, which is beautiful. And I was super excited that they started, putting them all together like this, because I was reading a lot of my Junji Ito on the internet in places that scantilated them. So I was down to pay for Junji's art and pay the author. So try, if you can, to buy things and buy your content or comics from, of course, local bookshops and stuff, but support your creator and try to buy the books as often as you can, whenever you can. Anyways, let's get to Uzumaki. So this book is creepy as hell. I started reading it a couple weeks ago, and it only took me this long because it kept creeping me the fuck out. So it takes place in this town, like the summary said, in Kuruzu-cho, which is just like a small seaside town that's surrounded by mountains, and we focus on Kairi and her boyfriend Shuichi. Shuichi, I find, so we first off with Shuichi's family, who I believe isn't the first to be touched by the spiral, but is like one of the first stories where we see his dad and mom affected by the intensity of the spiral and how it can take over and make you crazy. And then Shuichi is like this weird emo guy. You first meet him and he just looks like a straight-laced, glasses-wearing nerd who goes to school outside of Kuruzu. And after his family kind of falls into the curse of the spiral, he turns into this withdrawn emo guy who shows up creepily wherever Kairi's in trouble and is like, beware, the spiral is coming for you. He's literally the harbinger of doom and the Tuxedo Mask of this manga, where he pops up out of nowhere when she's in trouble and be like, watch out, the spiral's coming to get you. And then he fades back into the darkness. But more often than not, he does help Kairi through all this weird shit that's going on around her. Uzumaki takes place in every chapter is a vignette, and it is chronological, so I wouldn't just open the book and hop into any story. Each story happens in chronological order, and it's makes sense. It's just you get to see different facets of the town. So one story focuses on Shuichi's dad and how he slowly became obsessed with the spiral. Like, Kairi's walking to school and she sees Shuichi's dad in an alley staring at a snail shell, and he's completely transfixed on what he's seeing. He doesn't even notice she's there. And then she goes to the train station to meet Shuichi, and he's like, yeah, he's been acting weird, like super weird. to the point where he's collecting things with spirals. He's drawing spirals. He only wants to eat things with spirals. And Shuichi's dad approaches Kairi's dad, who's a potter. He makes like all kinds of dishes and stuff to make him a spiral bowl so he can eat out of the spiral. And it just continues to escalate until it gets to he wants to become a spiral. He no longer needs the images of the spiral around him to comfort him. He now knows he can become the spiral. So he buys this huge tub, like this huge wooden tub. And Shuichi and his mom get home and they're looking for his dad, and they see this tub like in the middle of the living room, and they open it and he's literally curled himself into a spiral. And you know, Junji Ito's art is amazing, beautiful, fantastic, and iconic, but holy crap was that gross looking. Like he literally shoved himself into that barrel and he's shaped like a spiral, and it's wild as hell. And you know, it kind of just continues like that. Each story gets more and more like, what the hell is happening? People turn into snails. People can ride the weather. Hurricanes are hunting Kairi at some point because the spiral knows that she's a danger to it continuing its curse on the town. The story that really freaked me out, I was in Oxnard like a couple weeks ago, and I was reading in the car by the beach, you know, living my best life. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to finish this book so I can talk about it on the podcast, because it's, you know, Halloween, October. It's a great time to talk about Uzumaki. And then I read, I don't know what chapter it is. It's like, it's in the middle of the book. Kairi ends up in the hospital, and she was saving her brother from the lighthouse, and she fell down and it exploded and blah, blah, blah. She hurt herself and she had all these burns all over her body. So they put her in the hospital, and later we find out her cousin's also in the hospital, and her cousin's pregnant, and weird things are happening at the hospital. Like they keep finding all these bodies around that have been sucked dry. All the blood's out of their body, and there's holes throughout their bodies. And they're trying to figure out, how is this happening? Who's doing this to these people? And soon the hospital's overrun with pregnant women and all of that. So Kairi is told she has to share a room with her cousin. And she's like, it's cool. She's my cousin. We're whatever. And one night she hears weird noises in the hallway. So she goes out in the hallway and sees a pregnant woman holding a drill, one of those hand drills that you see that are like L-shaped kind of, and you can just drill it into something. She sees a couple pregnant women holding hand drills, and they attack one of the orderlies in the hallway and drill holes in him and suck him dry, like all the blood out of his body. And I was like, yo, what? What am I reading right now? Cool. Pregnant ladies attacking bystanders and sucking the blood out of their bodies. That's normal. This is cool. This is whatever. I'm cool. I'm all right. And you know, I read a little more of that because I don't want to like spoil it for you, which I don't feel like you can spoil Junji Ito. It's like what I said times it by 1,000, and it goes to creepy level 9,000. It's intense. And I just had to pause. I put the book down. I was like, okay, I'm sufficiently creeped out, and I'm going to walk away from this for a little bit and just draw and stare at the ocean and contemplate my life. So yeah, that story got me fucked up. Because at first I was like, yeah, I've read Junji Ito. It usually doesn't freak me out, blah, blah, blah. It's cool. It's fun. And I was like, no, this book is starting to make my skin crawl. And it just continues to up and up and up and up and go to places you don't expect. And some of it's funny, some of it's horrifying. And I love Junji's writing because Kairi always ends up in the middle of this. It's like, how are you just always in the middle of all the weird shit? Like, what is going on? And then, of course, Shuichi's like, girl, you need to get out of this hospital. This hospital is not right. This place feels wrong. You need to go. And at the same time, there's like all these mosquitoes attacking people, and the mosquitoes are kind of a metaphor for what's going on with the pregnant women. And he's like, we got to get out of here. He starts spraying bug spray, and in her hospital room, and Kyrie's cousin starts coughing and choking like she's gonna die. And that's when they started escorting Shuichi out, and he's like, you gotta get out of here, Kyrie. This ain't right. This is not, there is no Jesus in this hospital. And he was right. And then she ran out I like how the stories end very abruptly. It was like, okay, all these pregnant women are basically human mosquitoes, and they have to feed their babies blood, and then they give birth, and then the babies are like talking demon people. And then, you know, Kyrie is like, fuck this, and she bolts. She gets out of the hospital, and that's it. We don't hear what happened to the gang of pregnant ladies with their talking babies and strange floating placentas. We don't hear what happened with all of that. It just goes to the next weird story, which I found interesting, funny, and abrupt. Like, nobody talks about the hospital. We don't hear about Kyrie's cousin anymore, which is fair. In the same situation, I'd be like, fuck this, and then I would run and never look back and never really talk about that I saw my pregnant cousin drilling holes into people and sucking the blood out of them. Yeah, that was a thing, and it was really good. I came back to the book recently and started reading some more, but, you know, just like a heads up, don't read this before bed. If you're easily creeped out, I wouldn't read Uzumaki before bed. Junji Ito's so good at what he does. How do you take something like a spiral and make it horrifying? How do you, like, I drew spirals in my notebook all the time in middle school. I drew spirals when I was younger. It was just like it's just like a fun little pattern. They have those like spirograph toys you used to make colorful spirals and stuff. And now I will never look at a spiral the same. I will never look at snails the same. There's cannibalism, there's gore, body horror. If you don't like body horror, you should just put every Junji Ito book you've ever seen down, because that's like his thing. There's body horror, there's comedy. I find Shuichi hilarious because he's always just so grave and so, we gotta get out of here, we gotta leave town, the spiral's killing everybody, we're all gonna die. Like, that's him. And Kyrie's like, oh, you're so cute and funny, let's go and, you know, hang out. Like, she's clueless until shit gets real and it actually attacks, until the spiral actually attacks her. And then she's like, I should be listening to Shuichi, he knows what's up. Because at first she thought he was just being paranoid because his dad went crazy and his mom low-key went crazy. And then it attacked her, and she was like, oh, this is real. Like sentient hair. There's a chapter in here where that's when the spiral finally attacks Kyrie. Her hair becomes, she wakes up one morning and her hair grows like 5 inches overnight. And then it starts to curl on its own at the ends into tight spirals. And every time she tries to straighten it out or get it cut off or something, the spirals attack whoever is manipulating her hair. So the spirals basically have a mind of their own, and they just want to entrance everyone around her and draw attention to her. And the hair continues to grow and continues to get more spirally, and then it starts to drain the life out of her. And it's like, how do you think of these ideas? I'm just in awe of the imagination, the dark, twisted imagination of Junji Ito. It is one of my favorite books, and also I probably won't read it until this time next year. It's a great Halloween read. If you want to freak yourself out, read Uzumaki. You should pick up the large volume one. I know you can get it at your local bookshops. If you live in my area, Cellar Door Books can order it for you, because I ordered a copy for my friend John for Christmas last year, which was funny because I gave him this book and then received this book for Christmas. But yeah, the art is fantastic. The dialogue is creepy. Shuichi is hilarious and really the harbinger of doom. And you should just listen. If he says something's up, then something's definitely up, and you need to get the fuck out of Dodge. But Kyrie's kind of dumb. in like the nicest way. She's the tool of the audience for us to see and go deeper into how weird things are getting in town. And towards the end of the book, things really just come out of left field. Like, the entire town is destroyed and is taken over by the curse of the spiral, and it just gets real fast. I didn't expect the book to end the way it ended, and I kind of like that it ended the way it ended. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, read Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I would love to go into depth into each chapter and all the weird things that go on, and like Kairi's character development, because really this book is focused on Kairi. She's kind of naive. She just cares about her boyfriend in high school. And then you slowly see like nothing else matters except the spiral conspiracy. And once it finally attacks her, because at a certain point you're like, girl, I don't know how you're not believing that this stuff is real. Literally, people are dropping like flies around you, and weird stuff continues to happen around you, but that's cool. You're so calm about this. Once it attacks her, then she gets right and starts listening to Shuichi, who also never leaves his house and is, every time she goes to visit him or bring him food, like a cute girlfriend, and like in a slice of life manga, he's sitting in the dark in the corner whispering about the spiral and how he needs to get the fuck out of Dodge, which, you know, fair, because people are eating people in this book. Again, sentient hair, cannibalism, pregnant woman, blood-sucking mobs, babies that regrow their placentas and then force everybody else to eat their placentas. That chapter really did mess me up. When you get to the pregnant lady chapter, I'm sorry. That part, something about pregnant women in horror, got me all the way fucked up. Anyways, Uzumaki. It's a really great book. You should really check it out. I might do a longer, in-depth essay about the book later on, and I'll put it up on my Patreon for everyone to see, of course. And yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Black Bibliophile podcast. If you have any questions, concerns, or like to have another guest on the show, like I did last week with the Stranger in a Strange Land episode, email me at theblackbibliophile@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. There I post a lot of updates on what the new book will be, the book of the week will be, and all the things going on with the podcast. You can also become a patron if you'd like to support the podcast. On Patreon, I do release episodes early. I create content such as book list, and right now there's a Halloween book list up that you guys can check out. Anyone can check out. I have it open to the public if you want to read what books I recommend for this creepy, spooky time of the year. I also post essays about books and do book reviews, exclusive book reviews for the Patreon. And all of this is available for $1 a month. So yeah, you can check out any of that content on my Patreon. And yeah, I really do enjoy doing this podcast and reading creepy things like Uzumaki. So support your local bookstore and please buy this book and read it if you can handle body horror and all that stuff. Also, I believe it's available on the Hoopla app, and it might be available on Libby. Libby has a smaller library of comics compared to Hoopla. But yeah, and if you don't know what those two apps are, they are library apps. If you have a library card, like an LA library card, Pasadena library card, Long Beach library card, you will have access to digital books on your tablet and phones. So check that out, because that's a free resource that's available to people, and it's really awesome. And I read a lot of the books I review on here on Hoopla and Libby. I'll keep all of this information about the books and everything down in the show notes. Thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.